I'm responsible for is construction. So I thought it might be of interest to talk a little bit about what's happening at the hospital. Number one, 10 years ago, my introduction to Newark Rotary and becoming a member was via a presentation to this group with Nancy Farber on the master plan for Washington Hospital. So I thought it might be interesting for you guys to see something, what has happened with that plan and the first fruits of that plan, which is Central Plant. Central Plant happens to be having an open house this Thursday. So you're all invited to that if you'd like to see it. So the master plan, this is the campus of Washington Hospital. The master plan basically was a series of buildings. This is the Central Plant. It was the first thing to be built on this plan. And the next thing is the Center for Joint Replacement, which is, I should point out, one of the things I thought would be interesting to people here is that there was a Measure FF in 2004. The idea for the master plan actually started in 1998. The plan was finished in 2000. We started making plans for buildings. We went to the voters, all of you, anybody that's living in the Tri-City area, voted on a measure called Measure FF to approve $190 million to basically build the central plant and the emergency room and critical care building on the Washington Hospital campus. And after that was approved, we went forward with finalizing plans and then starting building. Building started in 2009. And we have a bond oversight committee that we report into in terms of what's happening. It happens that one of our members, Mr. Huezo, is on that bond oversight committee. So I report to him on TV for everybody to see every quarter as to what's happening. Critical care and emergency department pavilion. Our current facilities in both those areas are about 50 years old, and they kind of look like it when you come in and use it. They're way overtaxed in terms of census and utilization. The rest of the plan basically is to put a parking garage, a new tower, and then a new ambulatory building. Those are all in the plan. They're not funded. So I just in terms of what's happened so far, just thought you should kind of understand. So here's our new central plant. And the central plant had to be built for two reasons. We basically have about a 380,000 square foot campus that our current central plant covers. The master plan builds out over 1 million square feet of space that basically is going to have to be supported. So this is basically all the utilities for the master plan. This just gives you kind of a look around the campus of this plant. But basically, here's the things that are key in it. This first is the steam generation facility for the hospital. And basically, steam is used for a variety of things, but the most important being things like sterilization and things called autoclaving. But it's also used in laundries and in dishwashing and things like that. So this is the latest technology. It actually, like that. And these are, again, state-of-the-art, very high efficiency boilers. The other thing in the plant is a whole chiller plant. So all the air conditioning in the hospital is comes out of the plant. One of the things that's interesting in this plant is there's something called the smart chiller. Again, extremely high efficiency. So on a day like today or this morning, when it's 39 degrees out and you're heating the building, you still have data rooms and you still have operating rooms that have to be brought down. The rest of the hospital is at 70 degrees, but you have to bring these down to like 55 degrees. So there's a smart chiller that runs at a very high efficiency and can cool those small areas for at a very reasonable cost. That's included in here. Sorry. I think one of the things that's happened in terms of the Measure FF is we got approval on $190 million in 2004, and then we promptly went into hyperinflation in terms of construction costs, and construction costs went up between 2004 and 2008. When the recession hit, construction costs went up 100%. And so we started out and we thought that the plant would cost somewhere in the neighborhood of around $40 million. The final cost ended up about, and this was the bid cost, was about $80 million. We took $65 million of the bond proceeds to pay for this. The rest was through the hospitals. Again, internally generated funds and other bond measures that the hospital is responsible for. So we still have $125 million to build the next building. Fortunately, the project came in as we sit here today. We're almost done. Between $3 and $6 million under the budget that we had set up in 2009 when we started, and it's come in on time. So it was a good time to be building, actually, even though it was very costly because of the way inflation went up. Once we started in 2009, it was a good time to be building. Yeah, Nancy.
You mentioned that these new facilities or generators are efficient. How much dollars will you be saving over what you're spending on your current utilities?
Well, we haven't had experience yet with it because we're just commissioning everything over. The anticipation is that it's going to run. Now you don't know all our utility bills, but it's going to be a couple $100,000 a year. And it also depends on, some of that cost is also coming down depending on what we can do with negotiations for certain utilities, but it's extremely efficient. And it's just something like that air conditioning, to get an idea, when it's 32 degrees out, we still had to run our chiller plant for those areas so it was run full bore like it would be for the summer, and you're running both heating and cooling. So there's significant dollars that are going to be saved. Interestingly enough, when we started this was Cylindra, which we thought we would then do at the end. We do have some significant roof space here and on the hospital that we've considered for solar. We haven't put it in yet, but that is something that we're going to be looking at.
I know a company here in Newark that sells and solar.
Okay. John.
And you have the opportunity here to design basically a whole new campus. What strikes me is the lack of architectural compatibility between the buildings. And
Between the buildings?
Yeah, among each building seems to be a unique effort and a unique design. And each also, they don't see the passageways from second floor and above that allow people to go from building to building without having to go out to the street level.
On the architectural side, we tried to make it, if you look at it, the master plan, the pictures I show it in white. I think if you go, you'll see that color-wise, they all match. And you got a sort of a common look through the campus. The bridges and things like that, we have some in consideration for the next building because that's sort of more closely tied to the rest of the facility. This, you don't
Not
really
with
need.
the utility, obviously not because you got the comments, but I mean, we showed your overall picture. We did tie Washington West in, unfortunately. Someday, I'm sure it'll go into a second floor, a new building.
That's correct.
But I don't see that in the other buildings that you're proposing, including the emergency building, emergency pavilion.
Well, we don't have that. We don't have that tied up on the second floor, but there are first floor tunnels or hallways that will tie the two buildings together. And there is a second floor thing that's being considered, which would be a walkway, and it would be between the operating rooms and what will be our cardiac facility building. But whether that gets built up right away really depends on how much money we're going to have in the end to build and how much of the next building gets built out.
The impression was it wasn't developed as a campus. It seems like you get individual buildings will pop in, and I don't get the impression looking at it that you have that coordinated.
Well, I would disagree from the point of view, if you go back and look at the picture at the end, it was with an idea of having a final campus that was all tied together. And I think you would see the bridges in that picture.